Hi, I'm Richard Mitchell. I live here in Poble-Sec. I'm a primary school teacher and a drag queen as well. Interesting mix. I first moved to Spain and Barcelona in 2011 and I came here for an interesting reason because basically I had met the love of my life that I am now married to. And the previous year I had been thinking about a change of either career or a change of country. And I had been to Barcelona on holiday and had met some lovely people from actually Poble-Sec on Calle Blai and my friend Manolo. And so I was visiting him and some other friends on New Year's Eve on 2011, so the first of the first 11, and I went out with them as we do for New Year's Eve. We had dinner together and then I met David Martin. We say David Martin in English, David, and it was what could have been just like a little holiday romance turned into a 13-year relationship, and of course now we're married. So basically once I had met him, I kind of knew that there was this connection and this calling to Barcelona. And so over the next 6 months I looked for a job and I was lucky enough to get a teaching job in Casa de Fels in the British School of Barcelona, and so then I planned to move over. So I moved over August 2011. So that's what brought me here. It was a nice change of lifestyle, but mainly the person that I fell in love with. When I first moved, I actually moved into my friend's flat in Raval, in the centre of Raval, for the first year and a half. So my first year and a half here in Barcelona was in Raval. Quite different from where I was living in Brighton and Hove in the UK. Very English, well, touristic town, very, very gay, very open, very bohemian. But much quieter, Victorian buildings, a little bit more space, and then I was very lucky, my friend moved to Madrid to become a train driver, and I was able to take his flat. And so I moved in there, and I loved it. It was great, it was very different. In the same street we had a Catholic church, a Muslim mosque, and a gay porn studio, all in the same street, and a ladies' lace making workshop. And so I lived there for a year and a half, and I was still dating David. And then after a year and a half, we moved in together. We found our first home together, and he was leaving his parents' home, and we bought a place in Poble-Sec, just 2 streets away from here, in front of Montjuïc. And I have to say, even though I enjoyed Raval, Poble-Sec feels much more my kind of neighbourhood. It's like a little neighbourhood. It's very close to everywhere. It's very close to nature. I love Montjuïc. We actually live right opposite. We're very near what we call the Kylie swimming pool, the Piscinas de Olímpicos. There's a lot more restaurants. There's a lot more. It's grown. I think it's evolved, but it's always been a nice neighbourhood. So I had been teaching 11 years in the UK in the same school since I qualified, and as I say, I was very lucky to find a position. It was in English, which of course helped me straight away to be able to move over without any language skills required. And they helped actually set up our NIA and all of the information that went with working in a new country and a bank account, all of the key things that are very vital to new life in a new place. I know a lot of people struggle with those bits because it's a lot of information, a lot of forms. I'm very lucky because, of course, when you move to another country and you know people, so I already had friends who were from here and actually from Poble-Sec, and of course David being from Barcelona, being born in Barcelona, I had instantly people I could meet and get to know. But the biggest thing was actually when I became a drag queen in Barcelona, because I started working in La Federica, which is at the time was the first gay bar basically in Poble-Sec. There are other kind of more queer bars, but kind of this side of parallel, I would say it was the first one as a bar. And that was interesting because the way that happened is we would go there. It started off as a little restaurant actually, and then two guys, Albert and Albert, took over it, and I used to go then have drinks. Then they saw that I was doing a fundraiser in New York City of all places. My dad actually got cancer, and as a way of me raising money and making a bit of a difference and helping towards cancer research, on my 40th birthday flew to New York, dressed as Elsa from Frozen, and skated around at the time, Donald Trump sponsored ice rink in Central Park. And while I was there, of all places, Albert from La Federica in Poble-Sec wrote to me and said, "Oh, would you come to our bar and do a show we're looking to do a charity night." So I said, great, and we planned that, and I did that once a month, and halfway through that show he said, "Would you do it every month?" So we did it once a month, and now I perform there every week, but we continue to do once a month a charity show. But through my role as a drag queen in Poble-Sec, that's how I got to know people. So I got to know a whole range of people, different communities, not only from the LGBT community, but also beyond that. And being a drag queen, you get to know people and people get to know you very well. In Barcelona, Turkish, lots of South Americans, actually German, Asian, I could go on, French, and a lot of them have managed to find their community in Barcelona through drag. I wonder if that's the same for musicians or artists. It's probably a way in to make a community. I think without that, certainly it would be harder to find a way into a network, a relationship, unless you had a hobby. I think a hobby is a good way of connecting through sports or music, so it's a way of finding people. The best thing about Poble-Sec for me is the location. I think it's a wonderful location. As I say, it feels in a big city, still like a little neighborhood. You really get that vibe. It feels very safe. I feel very safe here always, and actually being not only LGBT, wearing nail varnish every day, but also being a drag queen where I will walk not very far, but 5-10 minutes to the bar. I have my makeup on, but I never had, actually I think only once I had a bit of homophobia, but I think that person had been drinking quite a lot of alcohol. So I wouldn't say it was a regular thing, but 100% I feel safe here. And also that openness, we can get to the ocean very quickly, you can get to the mountains, you can get to different places, so I think that's really key. And as I say, it's a nice neighbourhood. I've not really witnessed anything negative. My bad side would be dog poo. Being only 2 hours away from the UK is very convenient. So actually 2 months ago my mum and dad were both in hospital in the same week. My dad had my mum had a knee operation that was scheduled, but my dad fell ill and he had some internal bleeding. Now, being here, I can fly home very easily and relatively cheaply, so for me, it's a great location. Since Brexit, well, I'm lucky because I have my permanent residency, so I don't have to worry about that. But I do think it's a bit of a shame for other people, for example, my niece or someone who could have freely worked here and now would have to go through more paperwork. But yes, I still have a life that is in the UK, but it's no longer home. When I talk about coming home, I always talk about here now. This is where home is. But I still love it. I wasn't leaving because I was unhappy. It's the opposite. I had a life here that had a connection with someone I loved. So I do love going back, but it doesn't feel home anymore. So my life is here, certainly in Barcelona. My friends, it's very easy catching up with them. I'm very lucky they all live in a very similar part, not too far from Gatwick Airport, so I fly to Gatwick. It's like 1 hour away, so going back is not a hassle. And again, they come here. I have friends and family coming here. My mum and dad are sadly too old really to travel by flight anymore, so they can't come, but I can go back easily. So I don't like it when someone dismisses you as being a Giri, because for me it's a little bit like that you're not part of this community. And I know that what I do, raising over 20,000 euros for local charities from Alzheimer's to HIV to cancer, to lifeboats in the Mediterranean, to next week we're raising money for the racism charity connected with Barca Football Club for fighting racism in sport. So I know what I do is probably more than some local people would do for their community. And again, I feel being a school teacher here, I'm very much a school teacher is a huge part of a community, of a country as well, and building on that. And I feel that people, when they come to live in a new country and they're giving towards the community, it doesn't matter particularly where they're from, they all have a use and they should be made to feel welcome. Have I commented on your appearance or your level of something else or your talent in this area? No, I haven't, so I'm not sure why you should feel that you have the right to comment on this aspect. And that normally shuts them up. Much better. There's a lot of pressures with teachers in the UK to do with Ofsted, who are the inspections, that is a lot more time consuming than my life here. So my work-life balance is much better here, which then means I've had time to create all of the creative things that I have been able to do. I've written books here, I've created my own artwork, and I do my drag work. So yes, this is why I love living here so much. But in school I'm openly gay. They know I'm a gay teacher, and I'm actually in charge of a lot of the equality and diversity in my school. And drag for me is a wonderful way of connecting to all kinds of people, including children, and especially if it's appropriate. So on World Book Day, Carnival, so I've been Mary Poppins, I've been Elsa, I've been Cruella de Vil, I've been characters from children's storybooks. So it's always got a learning point or a way of reaching them. And no, the reaction's been great, because of course it's always a way that is about learning or building or working on things. Even in the language schools in Barcelona, in Dressanes, Valhabon, in Sabadell, I have done, so I go and teach English in drag, not officially, I'm invited as a guest to perform in English for adults were learning a new language and learning also about a culture. So I kind of feel my place here is like this nice bridge, and people that want to learn about my culture as well, and a lot of those things. It's a nice way of connecting. So I wrote a book. It's available on Amazon. It's called Letters to Rachel, and that's the first version I wrote, but I've also created a gay version of the same book. So it's the same book, but one has a female straight protagonist called Rachel, Letters to Rachel, and the other one is called A Boy in Barcelona, which is about a gay guy. But both of them mark a whole year, and it's all done in letters, because the first year I moved here, my mum and key friends from back home, my friend Elaine, who sadly died last year, they wrote to me every month. So these letters inspired this book, and so it's a book made up only of handwritten letters, all about a person's first year in Barcelona and how they adjusted. It's probably 60% me and real, 40% fictional, but it mentions all of the first experiences in Barcelona, like the Correfoc, for example, Sant Jordi, all these sort of things that were very new to me at the time, La Marseille, but within a fictional content. And then it connected also to stories back home as well, so the characters back home, a lot of them were based on people I knew in a fictional sort of sense, about telling stories and that connection between the two. So it was a great way of like getting used to where I was living and almost putting it into it's a bit like a diary entry really.